Today we're going to be talking about the newly announced Lectric ONE. We expect this bike to shake up the industry because it would probably cost around $5,000 from anyone else. Lectric is selling the bike for $19.99. So why is that such a big deal? Let's take a ride and find out. Welcome to Electric Bike Report. My name is John. Today's going to be a little bit of a different format, as we normally do extremely in-depth real-world testing of every e-bike we get our hands on, but in this case we were fairly limited to just a few hours on the bike at Lectric's announcement event. I'll talk about everything we learned about the bike from that experience, but just know that we will be doing a full review with our normal process as soon as we get a test bike. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel and hit the bell icon so you can find out when we go live with that. Let's go through the specs that we know, and then I'll kind of break some of those things down a bit more later on. Some of the big defining features here are the Pinion C1.6 gearbox, which is an internal gearing system located at the bottom bracket, and that's connected to a 750 watt rear hub motor with a Gates carbon belt. The base version of the bike includes a 48 volt, 499 watt hour battery, but there are two higher capacity options that will increase the price of the bike. The mid-tier option has 672 watt hours of capacity, and then the largest option, which Lectric is calling the Max Pack, has 912 watt hours. The bike's price goes up to $21.99 with the mid-level battery, and then $23.99 with that big one. The tires are made by Chaoyang. They're 20 inch by 2.5 inch with both puncture and pinch flat protection. There's a hydraulic disc brake system with 180mm front and rear rotors and a brake-activated tail light. There's an adjustable and collapsible stem, a color display, and a thumb throttle. And then the pre-order version includes a cargo rack, front and rear fenders, and a headlight. But it sounds like those things will need to be added separately after launch for around $220. The One weighs 63 pounds with the battery installed. It's UL 2849 certified, and it ships as a Class 2 with a 20 mph limit, but it can be unlocked to a Class 3 with pedal assist up to 28. That covers the basics, but let's dive in a little bit deeper and see what all the fuss is about. The Pinion gearbox is really what's causing us to lose our minds about the Lectric ONE. Pinion is a German company that was founded by two former Porsche engineers, and they manufacture sealed, self-contained gearbox units that replace the traditional cassette and derailleur on an e-bike. It's essentially the same thing as the transmission on your car, and that's really the point. Pinion's founders wanted to give the feel of a race car to a bike. The gearbox on the One is one of their simpler units. Some of them combine a motor and a gearbox together, but it's still some really high-end tech that you don't see very often, especially here in the US. Pinion has a much bigger presence in Europe. It's also unprecedented on bikes that are this affordable. For perspective, one of Pinion's representatives at the announcement said that the cheapest bike with a Pinion system in the US goes for around $13,000. So what's so cool about the gearbox? First, they classify it as an semi-automatic shifting system. You can shift manually if you want, but you can also set your preferred cadence in Pinion's Smart Shift app, and then the system can automatically adjust the gearing to help you maintain that pace. It'll also downshift for you when you come to a complete stop, so you're automatically in the best gear for getting moving again. Even if you're manually shifting, you can make those adjustments under load and also when you're stopped. We didn't have access to all of the Pinion's features when we tested the bike at Lectric's event, but the downshifting feature was super cool. The manual shifting was also amazing. It was super smooth and almost instantaneous, so we honestly can't wait to try out the rest when we get our review copy of the bike. But another huge benefit of the Pinion system is that it's incredibly low maintenance. The oil bath inside the gearbox only needs changed about once every year or after 6,000 miles, whichever comes first, and the unit itself should last over 60,000 miles. The sealed nature of the gearbox also protects the gears from damage, so the only thing you'll ever really need to replace is the Gates carbon belt. That should last at least twice as long as a traditional chain. It doesn't need lubrication. it won't have any problems if it gets wet, and it also doesn't stretch out over time, so there's just a lot less to worry about overall. Based on all those things, I think the big takeaway from this bike is that the experience of both owning and operating it should be incredibly easy. I think that's really important when you're using a bike daily. Even small hiccups can make you late to work. Trust me, I know. So it's definitely ideal if you can just hop on and go without worrying about anything, and I think the Lectric ONE is gonna make that happen. Let's talk about the Lectric ONE's motor a little bit more. By the numbers, it looks like the same motor that comes on the X-Peak, which is Lectric's full-size fat tire bike. So it's 750 watt nominal, 1,310 watts peak with 85 Newton meters of torque. That's just a lot of power for a bike of this size. Our tester Justin recorded a short speed test with the One, so I'll pass you over to him to see how it went.
Okay, so we got a decent runway here. I'm just gonna see how fast I can get this up. I've got my whole camera gear backpack on. Here we go. Whoa, yeah, it does kick in. Shift super fast on that pinion. 19, 20, 22, 24. Right to 26. It did not take long to get it up to speed. Just crazy fast off the line. Do that one more time. Oh, stop. And I'm not even having to pedal really, like push down. It's just get that cadence going and this thing flies. Like crazy flies. Brakes feel good. That was a lot of fun. This bike is seriously a kick in the pants. Tons of fun.
Obviously, this bike can be super zippy, but its feel is also customizable. Justin had it in Class 3 mode for the test, but you can keep it in Class 2 mode if you want, and then you can also adjust the intensity of the pedal assist. So basically, it can be as punchy or as gradual as you like. This bike uses a cadence sensor, and those aren't usually known for being very responsive, but we found that this bike was. Most bikes with that type of sensor use 12 magnets to detect your cadence, but Lectric spec'd this bike with 96 magnets to improve the motor engagement, and we thought the difference was really noticeable. One other interesting thing here is the programming. Instead of being set with specific speed limits in each assist setting, this bike uses Lectric's PWR programming, which only limits the amount of power to the motor. This seemed a lot more natural feeling and a little bit closer to what we'd expect from a bike with a torque sensor. So bottom line, this bike has great acceleration, it has a customizable feel, and it's really responsive. We expect to see really great results from our formal speed test as well as our hill test. So again, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out when we release the full review. I'm gonna pass you back to Justin so he can talk about the One's ride quality. He spent quite a bit of time getting the feel for things at Lectric's announcement event, and I think you'll be able to tell just from the sound of his voice how much he liked this bike.
Okay, so out here trying to just give you an idea of what it's like to ride on the Lectric ONE. First of all, the shifting with that Pinion gearbox is just smooth as silk. You can set it up to auto shift according to your cadence. You shift under tension and it just goes. You know, I'm in PS2 right now going 15 miles per hour. You've got some settings. You can change this to Class 3, Class 2 within Lectric's system. But for being a rear hub, this is one of the smoothest rear hub cadence sensors that I've felt. Motor shuts off as soon as you stop pedaling, goes as soon as you start pedaling. Just feels really controlled and really good, which is what I want in a commuter, because you get in a situation where you got to kind of get going. You want to make sure that you have the responsiveness from the motor of what you need. So overall, really good feel. It's quiet. You know, you hear it a little bit, but it's, I mean, I haven't been able to find a hill to really take it up yet, but it's got a good, it sounds good. It sounds really, really solid. Let's kick it up to 5 here. I will say, if you, you can change the responsiveness in the settings, and if you make it ultra responsive, you better know what you're doing, because it'll pop a wheelie on you. You know, being lighter weight, if you're not kind of lean forward a little bit, it'll kick that front tire in the air for sure. Throttle also is on this, which not a lot of Pinion bikes that I've ridden have throttles. You know, a lot of mountain bikes, road bikes, that type of thing, that's not what they're going for. And so on a commuter, I like seeing that in case you're stopped like here, you want to just get going, but you know, maybe you're just tired or you just want to get some help to get started. You can just throttle around. For me personally, I still like to manually shift and I still like to pedal. But if you don't like to, you know, out of all the media here, I'd say about half have been throttling around, half have been pedaling. So I like the option, and just overall kind of has about everything you'd want in a commuter, just at a fraction of the cost. $2,000 is just, I still am having a hard time wrapping my head around it, given all the features and all the components that you get on this bike. For $2,000, it's a really good deal. Stuff back in here. See how the handling is really smooth, solid, and it's just a super zippy, fun bike. You can see as I maneuver in and out, at least, you know, I'm very controlled. Oh, excuse me. And very nimble, which I love. Yeah, so this is a kind of a media bike. You know, it's not the final version. There'll be a few touch-ups, but I'm having a hard time finding many touch-ups that I think need to be made on it at this point. So yeah, let's go check out some other areas and see how it rides. Okay, so I'm headed to the Tempe Town Lake. I don't know why Google Maps isn't working. So I've got a lot of weight on. I've got my backpack with all the camera gear and everything, and I'm going to see if I can stress this out a little bit, because it is incredibly powerful. My initial take on this is, wow, it is crazy fun and incredibly fast. You know how they've got that Pinion gearbox set up with the cadence sensors with 96 magnet points, I guess. It feels incredibly smooth, incredibly natural. I mean, no, it doesn't feel like a mid-drive. I wish the car wouldn't park there. But it's just really dialed in. And I know this isn't a final production model, but even as it is right now, this might just be the one bike, pun intended, that I'm gonna want to have in my garage just to commute around.
The One's tech really seems to be a defining feature, and again, not something you can really find anywhere else in this price range. We really like the bike's handling and its power, and I've also got to give Lectric some credit for their first color display. I think it looks great, and it also really fits the high-tech feel of the bike very well. The only other thing I can add here is that I just can't wait until we have some more time on the bike. We recorded Lectric's full announcement for the One, which we'll include here. I think it's worth watching to see the thought process that led to this bike, but if you want to skip ahead to the conclusion, I'll see you there.
When we started this company, you know, we talked to Brent, my dad, and, you know, we were babies, and he was coaching us on how, you know, you guys will probably never have the #1 bike, right? Just in terms of the recommendation, what is the best bike that you could do? But he said, so because if you're gonna do that, it's gonna be north of $10,000. You're gonna need all this crazy componentry. And what we want you guys to do is focus on doing, you know, being the #1 in service, because that's something you can control. You can control how much attention and effort you put in to customer service, customer experience. And I would hope that the things that you hear, and I would say our NPS reflects that we do, act on that. We do have the number one customer service in the industry. So it's just like number one. But, it really bothered me when my dad said, you just won't have the number one bike. Like, what if you tried, like, it's probably almost impossible to have the number one bike in a category, but also still be ranked number one just in terms of the spec and the bike itself. But I think the key word in that phrase is the word almost. So what I would like to introduce with the help of Robbie is the one, the only, the Lectric ONE.
Yeah.
So, what did we just do here? We just broke the industry in terms of componentry selection. And I'm just going to jump right to the headline of this bike, which is the drivetrain. So you're going to see some representation from Pinion and Gates here today. But if you want to be the best, you can only work with the best. There is no substitution for it. You have to work with the best. And that is what we're interested in doing. We wanted to collaborate with the industry leaders in componentry in order to make the best commuting bike possible. You can tell that we're going after every segment, the folding, the trike, the cargo, the off-road, the adventure, but we have ignored the commuting where there's the most opportunity to go after car miles. So if we're going to go after it, we have to go after it with a haymaker. And so what we're staring at right now is we did not do Pinion and Gates just to do those names. We did the best Pinion system. We did the best Gates system. We have a Pinion C1, which means they're best that they offer. C1 6-speed I. So it has the electronic smart shift, so semi-automatic shifting built into it. We then pair that system with a Gates CDC, their second best belt they offer in their bike division, paired with a CDX sprocket, which is the best sprocket they offer over there at Gates. So this drivetrain that we've elected to do, well, Rob, I think it's probably a good idea for you to explain where the drivetrain even is, and let me flip this around for the folks.
Sure. So for those who aren't familiar, belt drives are kind of the ideal solution for commuting bikes, right? They're clean, they're quiet, they're reliable, and they're long lasting, right? They last 2 to 3 times as long as your traditional chain. You basically need to do zero maintenance on this thing, right? So when you go out and you ride in the rain and you're worried about your chain getting rusty or something else, forget about that with the belt, right? It doesn't happen. You can be assured that when you get on this thing, it's gonna work for you. It's gonna be there every day, day in, day out. So when we're thinking about building a commuter, our minds went straight to belt drive, right? But then thinking about the rest of the build and staying true to what makes Lectric and offering this fantastic experience, we knew we wanted high speed, right? We wanted class 3 performance, and we wanted an awesome throttle on this thing. And we wanted high torque, right? And so we're known for that across all of our bikes. We have these super powerful hub motors with the 20-inch wheel. The acceleration is out of this world, and it's like riding around on a mini spaceship, basically. And so we knew we wanted to go hub drive, and we knew we wanted to go belt drive. Now you may be asking yourselves, well, if you have a hub drive and you have a belt drive, how are you going to change gears? Because you can't have a derailleur when you have a belt drive, right? So logically, the gears need to go somewhere, and so they go up here in the BB, and that's the pinion system that Levi's talking about, right? So the derailleur, the gears, they're all situated inside of that pinion gearbox up front, and you've got 6 gears up there, right? So you get that huge maintenance advantage of the belt drive paired with the Pinion 6-speed up front. And the awesome thing about the Pinion is it also is super, super reliable and super, super low maintenance. So basically the only thing that you have to be worried about with this Pinion thing is that you don't have to be worried about it, right? I mean, like, you really only need to change the oil on the Pinion system every 6,000 or 7,000 miles, and that's it. Otherwise, this thing just runs, right?
So
between
adjusting your derailleur, no, and it works instantly. There is no, by the time you think that I'm shifting, you have shifted. You have electronic shifting that is happening right the moment it's already in the next gear by the time you thought that it needed to go. So there's that aspect, that instantaneous delivery. But that's, you know, Robbie and I ride different, right? And so I think if you're making an investment into a gearbox like this, you really want it to be tailored to your riding experience. Because Zach from BPL, this is Pinion's North America division. Zach, how much? What's the cheapest bike in the United States that uses the Pinion Smart Shift system?
It's right around $13,000.
Right around $13,000 is the cheapest bike in the United States that uses the Pinion Smart Shift. Right, so that's an investment. If you're buying a bike at that price point, you expect it to be tailored to your needs. And I would say Pinion has delivered on customization. If you want to talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So with the Smart Shift gearbox, you know, not only are you getting electronic shifting like Levi mentioned, right? So there's no cables going from the shifter up at the handlebars down to the gearbox. It's all, you know, some of you may be familiar with steer-by-wire. We're shifting by wire with this thing, right? So it makes it super reliable.
No cable stretch.
No
right?
cable stretch, nothing to maintain there. But then they take it a step further with this semi-automatic smart shifting. So you've got electronic shifting, you've got 6 speeds, but then you have the Pinion Smart Shift app. And so what that app allows you to do is dial in exactly when, where, and how this thing shifts. So when we say it's semi-automatic shifting, and you'll all get an opportunity to do this in a moment, you set your riding cadence, so you may prefer to pedal a little more slowly, maybe 45 RPM, or you may prefer to pedal at 90 RPM, you know? And you can dial that in with the Pinion system and say, okay, I like a cadence of 60 RPM, and then it will automatically shift you to put you in that comfortable cadence when you get there. So you'll experience this, and I always say riding is believing, so you guys will, you know, I can say these things, but really when you feel it, you'll get there and understand. And not only will it automatically upshift for you as you speed up, it'll also downshift for you as you slow down. So again, for those super hardcore commuters, what that means is as you're coming up to a stoplight, you're pulling the brakes, you're slowing down, and the gearbox, the sensors on this bike, they're recognizing that, and it's automatically downshifting for you. So when you get to that stoplight and you come to a stop, you're already back in gear 1. So when you want to get going again, it's right there for you. And you can set that start gear. If you don't want to start in gear 1, you can start in gear 2, you can start in gear 3. That's all adjustable through the app. And the other thing is, if you don't want to use the smart shift and you prefer to shift by yourself, you can turn the smart shift off via the app as well. And what's really, really cool about this that we haven't even touched on is with a normal derailleur setup, you have to be pedaling in order to shift the thing. This, you don't need to be moving the bike at all or pedaling. You can just shift at a stop, no worries at all. It'll go through those gears for you. So the modularity, the adjustability that you get to dial in your ride with the Pinion Smart Shift app is cutting edge. It's leading the industry. There's no better technology out there than this right now.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about this drivetrain. We've hit on a little bit about the motor, but you know that was one of the things that we cared a lot about when designing this bike is I did not come from the cycling industry. I came from, I just liked putting motors on things, right? Robbie and I just wanted to, at first, just make things go fast and have fun. And some of you who have been with us in the very beginning, we didn't even know there were legal parameters. So the very first XP prototype was 35 miles per hour. So, you know, it's been a journey for us. But so we really like that throttle experience, and that's another decision we made of why not do a mid-drive or something. And the reality is you just don't get a very good throttle experience when you do mid-drive systems. So the throttle is there, but it is incredibly powerful, and the most powerful of not just Lectric's lineup, but in terms of a 3-class e-bike, the fastest, most powerful. So this bike comes in at 55 pounds, and it's rocking a 750 watt motor. So that means it has the highest watt to weight ratio of any electric bicycle in the industry. So because it has so much power, it's peaking out at 1300 watts, and it weighs so little, it truly is a rocket ship when you dump that throttle. So for that customer that enjoys that throttle experience, they're really going to enjoy this bike. So we've paired it with the Stealth M24, so it's incredibly quiet. This whole package is meant to be quiet. If you're riding day in, day out, you don't want to hear gears clunking around. You don't want to hear chain. All of that is quieted. You got to have a motor that's paired with that as well, that dampens sound. Now, we've talked a bit about the motor. The battery is being offered in 3 different sizes. The first size is our standard 10 amp hour. Then there is the long range, which is 14. And then there's the max pack, which is 19 amp hours. So we will now be offering 3 battery sizes for this, because for the hardcore commuter, you know, they're gonna want that. And if they go all the way up to the max pack, you know, it's 80 miles of range with this bike. The starting 10 amp is 40, 60, 80 miles of range. Now we can talk a little bit about the cockpit, should we?
Sure.
So obviously, well, you know what I think is cool, which we can do this, because we're talking about the drivetrain and we're talking about the motor, is the sensor that's being used on this bike. So those that know I really love cadence sensors, because if I'm going 28 miles per hour, I don't want to have to be working out and sweating anytime I'm going 28 miles per hour. I want to choose my workout when I want to work out. And those that know me know I don't like to work out. So I like going fast, and I don't want to be cranking on it in order to go there. But we did want to upgrade the cadence sensor technology that is in this. So those that are familiar with Lectric know that we have been doing 12 magnet cadence sensors, and there's been a bit of an upgrade to not 12 and not 24. We actually went to a 96 magnet resolution for this. So 8 times the resolution of our normal systems, you know, the ones that you're familiar and love on Expedition. We got 8 times more resolution and quicker response and interaction between your pedal stroke and that. Did I cover all that?
Yep.
Beautiful. All right, so with this system, you obviously got to pair it with hydraulic brakes, so we've done that. We've done hydraulic brakes with 180 millimeter rotors, but what we've also done is this is our first color display. So we've changed the display to a color display, and there's all sorts of things that you guys will be able to see with it. New iconography to help you better understand and interact with your bike. When it's in walk mode, you see a little stick figure walking, you see headlights on, but you have a power meter, so you can see when you're using 1,000, 1,200, 1,300 watts. It's now telling you in the power meter, and the range estimations as well. So
we were really happy to be able to attend and check out the bike, and obviously we had a lot of fun with it, but let's wrap up our thoughts on the Lectric ONE. I've got to stress again just how crazy it is to see a bike with these components at this price. Lectric has consistently redefined what's possible with their e-bikes, and I think this bike follows the same pattern. Our first impressions of the Lectric One were great, so much so that I don't think we really had anything to critique. Obviously, we'll reserve judgment until we can do our standard speed, brake, range, and hill tests, but based on our experience, we expect solid results. Speed is definitely covered, and the brakes felt great. Range will obviously depend on battery size, but just by the math, we think the bike could go up around 80 miles with the max pack battery. And of course, with the same or similar motor as the X-Peak, I don't think Hellhole Trail will pose much of a threat to this bike in our hill test. I look forward to sharing more details in the near future, but in the meantime, please make sure to like, subscribe, and let us know what you think of the Lectric One down in the comments. Again, I'm John with Electric Bike Report, and I'll see you soon.